So, hello there, Rinali and Amber. It's really great to spend some time with you today. I think probably let's start by just a quick introduction. So I'm Bev. I'm the CEO of Harvey Nash Group. I always surprise myself when I say that. I'm like, really? Is that someone else? But in all reality, I've been here 1 year and a few days. It's great to be part of this group. Rinali, do you want to introduce yourself a little?
Yes, thank you, and congratulations on your 1 year anniversary. So I'm Rinali. I'm a part of the California team. I'm the manager of recruiting here. I come with about 10 years of experience. I absolutely love my job. I think the reason why I got into this 10 years ago was because it's altruistic and ambitious at the same time. I think I have a great night's sleep knowing that I give people a job for a living, and I absolutely love that. So I've been a part of the Harvey Nash family for the last 3 years, and would you believe it, it's my first job in the United States. So I was like fresh off the boat, moved from India to the United States because I got married. My parents shipped me off. And this is where we are, my first job, and super grateful for the journey that I've had here.
Wow, lucky for us, Rinali, definitely lucky for us. And Amber, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. So I have been working quite similar to you, Bev, actually. I've been working at Harvey Nash for, coming up to a year. I think I had my first week in the office, which fell on one of our big events, like the kickoff event. And I remember saying to myself, oh, amazing, like this is such a great time to join. And then incidentally, we went straight into lockdown and we were all working remotely from home about 3 days after that. So I think I sort of jinxed myself a little bit on that one. But yes, I work in the London office as part of the finance and banking team, which we've been really, really fortunate that finance and banking has obviously been really resilient throughout this time. So we've kept quite busy, and we're definitely starting to see things pick up now, which again is really exciting. So a big year ahead. I came from, I had a year's experience beforehand, and I love working at Harvey Nash. I think it's a really great company, great culture, great people. And like I said, really excited for the next year that's coming up.
Would be inappropriate for me to do a little dance now, right? I love talking to people like you guys who love what you do. It's such a joy, isn't it? So we're going to be talking about women and careers and sharing some of our experiences. Do you mind if I kind of start with a question and then let's see where we go? And of course, jump in with questions of your own. So I'm really interested to understand from you both, what obstacles you think, have been for women in careers, and specifically, anything you're happy to share in your own career so far.
So obstacles in my career as a woman, to be very honest, I think I've been lucky, protected, privileged to the extent that the work environment that I've chosen to be a part of has always been extremely healthy for me. So even if there are challenges that I might come across, I think that the approach is all that matters, right? There are going to be minor hiccups, and somebody else gets something that you wanted, or you don't think that you get what's due to you. And those challenges, I feel like, although this answer could be a little deeper, because I've been introspecting a lot for the last few years on how I deal with challenges. And I used to think for the longest time that it's the external situation. And then when I did spirituality and I became a life coach, I realized that maybe it's internal. Maybe it's me dealing with my insecurities and sort of letting it out, on the external environment. And that's when I feel like things are not going in my way. So I did a lot of work on myself internally to even figure out am I putting these challenges in front of me, or are they really existential? However, the underlying fact at the end of the day that I'm now starting to face is that I'm married. I eventually want to have kids and I want to grow my family. My biggest dilemma is, how does a woman who's at the peak of her career decide to walk away, take a break for 6 months or whatever to raise a family? And it's once you make that commitment, there's no going back, right? So what happens then? Like, I'm now starting to just sort of face that challenge. And I don't know if it's internal, external, but getting the right support, I think, or the mentorship and guidance from leaders like you, I think is going to be extremely valuable while I navigate that challenge, I guess.
Nice, thank you. How about yourself, Amber?
Yeah, I think quite similar. I'm quite fortunate in the sense that I've not had huge kind of obstacles or barriers. Like I said, it might be come from a place of like privilege or, again, just being like, really fortunate. But I think the one thing that I've had like friends or colleagues have had that's kind of come up to them is around like for women is appearance. I think there's kind of a way that you're sort of expected to dress and present yourself. And of course, when you're in the corporate world, you have to look, presentable. But yeah, I think that's the main thing is sort of looking and sort of being in sort of a certain way in the way you present yourself. And I think, I'm quite a tomboy. I kind of come from I used to play football when I was younger. So for me, that was one thing that I found quite like a difficult kind of thing to shift. I've never had sort of direct comments around that, but I think, like I said, I've had people who've experienced that, and it's yeah, I think that's one thing that, would you say the same thing to a guy in the office? Perhaps not, but would you make those comments to a woman? Yes, often you see it, in the workplace.
I've certainly heard it over the years, for sure. And it's always a bit of a surprise, isn't it? In terms of feeling like, you need to kind of conform to a specific notion of what is expected of you, how do you deal with that?
In the job that we do, it's about just being like authentic, isn't it? Just trying to like have conversations with people, just trying to be sort of really transparent as well. And I think having that authenticity is just like remembering who you are, remembering, just trying to be as original as possible, just trying to be yourself, basically. Yeah, I think it's the hard one, because I think until you're sort of in that situation, you don't really know how you'd respond. But yeah, for me, I think it's just remembering who I am, just trying not to sort of change my ways or my personality for anybody else.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I have such a long list of questions, but I want to give you the chance to ask me, so we can do a little bit of back and forth here. Do you have anything you want to start with?
Yes, I guess one of the first questions to kick this off is, Bev, we're all looking up to you, and the fact that there is a woman CEO leading our company is just huge, and we toot that horn everywhere. But now that we have the opportunity to actually ask you this, tell us how you landed this position, from coming from the IT background, director of IT, and now a CEO. And of course, you've been a CEO for the last few years, but how did you land this role in particular? Tell us a little about your journey.
Yeah, thank you. So you're absolutely right. More than half my career has been as a technologist, and I always consider myself to be absolutely in technology, but always with technology to make a difference in the world of work and people's lives. So that's really key for me. And I was always curious about how business worked. So I studied for an MBA, did that part-time, online and weekends and holiday breaks, going off to summer schools and so on, because I wanted to understand more about some of the tools that businesses use to think about the future state of an organization, or to consider culture and what culture needs to be like in order for people to thrive. So there was so much I was really curious about. That was the first place. And then I really wanted to get involved with more projects that were business-led rather than tech-led. So I would kind of put myself out to the business, go, pick me, I'd like to be involved in that. Let me run with this, please. And I remember a project for digital TV. I mean, that was the scariest thing so far I've done, because nobody gave you a handbook. Nobody, one of our competitors was doing it, but you didn't know how they were doing it. And it involved, 3 continents and a whole ton of expectation about delivery dates. It was about cultural change. It was about marketing, setting price points, technology. Everything came together in one fell swoop. And I think I learned a lot about what drives me and what could break me if I'm not careful. So that was the first point. And then I moved into a role in a consulting business, which gave me the opportunity. I was kind of, I guess, spotted because I'm not exactly shy at coming forward sometimes. And I kind of said, and the guy who was the CEO at the time said to me, I'd like you to be COO. And I went, really? What's that do then? I've not got that experience, but sure, let's talk about it. And then he said, I'd like to run a business, specific business. And I remember going, I'm not sure about that one because it doesn't look that interesting. Honestly, it was amazing. And each time it was about building up knowledge and experience and learning from others around me, learning from myself. So I set the bar very high, and every day that bar goes up and up. And I'm conscious that actually makes it quite tough sometimes to work with me because I do that. I have to be careful not to do that for others, right? It's my bar. It's not everyone else's bar. And so bring me to the point where I was appointed at the GI Group in my first CEO role, which I loved. It's a very, Italian business, incredible business, an amazing founder. And they had some element of technology, but then I got reached out to by the company that owns our business and asked would I meet and talk about the possibility of a role here. And I said, I don't know, this brand is a brand I love, actually. Why wouldn't I have a conversation? Initially, I kind of said, no, I'm happy where I am. I have this real commitment to the business I'm in, but the more I looked, the more I became interested. And I think the rest is history. It became a curiosity for me to see what this incredible set of businesses is today and can be tomorrow. It can be so much more than it is today. Why? Because of people. I feel like I'm giving you a very long answer. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're not. Share as much as you can. We're only on sponge mode here, the both of us. And
likewise.
Thank you. And I guess the biggest takeaway is that you asked for what you wanted and you were always out there. And how are you so confident, Bev, with your ability to ask for what you want and put yourself forward? And even in terms of addressing, whether it's your peers, your teams, just tell us a little about the confidence that you've developed, that you've always had. Have you worked on it? A little more about that.
Sure. So, I come from a background that is the far end of privilege, so not privileged. And I know who I am. Every day I know where I came from and what my background is, and I'm proud of it. So the first thing is it's about be confident in your own skin. Don't pretend you're something you're not. And I've seen a lot of people in business. They're kind of trying to want to paint out their history. I'm proud of the fact that my parents had very little money and we lived in a council house and didn't go on holidays. It doesn't matter. I became who I am because of all of those experiences. So I think I have this kind of mantra really, which is do one thing every day to scare yourself. That's for me important. Whatever that might be, it might be, writing on a subject that you're having to do quite a lot of research on and you don't feel 100% comfortable, speaking at an event on, a topic that you think, actually, I think I understand it, but, I'm the least knowledgeable in the room, but I'm going to give it a go because I believe we have something to say here. And actually just being brave and learning from that, I think that bit's really important. And what's the worst that can go wrong, right? What is the worst that can go wrong? The worst that can go wrong is you end up on your final day on earth, whenever that might be, and you regret that you didn't take these steps. I don't want to do that. I want to live my life knowing I've tried all the things that could make me really happy and make a difference and have a legacy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think, obviously, one of the things I think you mentioned in the first answer that you gave was about like your drivers, and it seems like a very typical recruitment question, but what are those drivers for you now? And I guess from when you started out your career to now, how have those sort of shifted?
Two things that have stuck with me throughout. One is fairness. I go crazy if I see people treated in an unfair way. I cannot stand it. It physically hurts me. I absolutely am being honest with you. I can't stand it. And the second thing really is that kind of curiosity. So I've always had that from a little kid right the way up until now. I'm always endlessly curious. How does this thing work? Why does it work like that? How could it be different? What could this person do that they are not doing today do they believe it themselves, and what can you give them to help them have that self-belief? So curiosity, for sure, and absolutely fairness are the two things that have stuck with me. So what's changed? What's changed is more self-awareness. And I think we talked a little bit about this, the both of you, at the beginning here, which is I had this view when I was young that there was a universal truth to life. There was always an answer. You were right or you were wrong. But actually, as I became older and perhaps a little wiser, I realized that actually that's not true. We look at things through different filters. We understand life, make sense of it through the different ways that we've experienced the world. And so it doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it true for me at this moment, whatever that might be. So I used to, when I was very young, have, really quite robust conversations with someone. No, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And they would be arguing, no, absolutely, you're wrong. And I'm like, I don't understand this. But today, I come back to that curiosity. Be curious. Don't jump to your conclusions. Ask yourself why you're thinking. A lot like you said, Rinali, about, actually, is it the way that you're interpreting the world rather than the way the world is interpreting you?
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that, because I do resonate with that. And when I was a young girl, I used to see life as black and white. And then I don't know what happened, what pivotal moment that was, but then I realized, no, everything's gray. And I'm being hard on myself by pressurizing myself to see life in a black and white, because there is another individual out there who's another soul. They have their own journey, their own stories. Yes, they've hurt you. They've done something that hasn't made you feel right, but there could be a reason behind it. So don't judge the situation. And I guess that in itself, just sort of, you let go of a lot of limitations and burdens that you're holding on to once you accept that everything's not going to be yes or no. And I wish it was, like you rightly said, back in the day when we're growing up, you want things to be easier, but they're not. And that's okay. Life is still beautiful with the gray.
Right. You have to learn these things. I think it's a passage of time. If you're lucky and you put yourself in front of people that, are willing to share their journey, but it still has to become your journey. It has to be your experience of the world rather than theirs, borrowed, if you like, I think. I want to ask you guys another question. I'll start with you, Amber. So, what would you like to change in our business? What would you ask for us to change in order to enable women to navigate their careers in a much more cohesive way, in a way where they feel better supported perhaps than they do today? What would those things be?
Oh, that's really difficult. I think it's just for me, I think in the London office there's some amazing females in like leadership positions, but I think it's just seeing more of that and having maybe more time with those individuals. So all the people in the finance and banking team who are in sort of the leadership roles are guys, which of course, they do a fantastic job, but that means that from my perspective, I don't really have that sort of one-to-one time with any of the sort of female leaders. And I think that would be, really, really helpful. Just again, to have conversations like these, just to see if they've, had any obstacles, how they've overcome them. I guess, how I can sort of aspire to be on the same sort of path as them, really. So yeah, I think that'd be the main thing, is maybe some more sort of one-to-one time, or even just sort of sessions as we're doing right now, with all the sort of female leaders and all the sort of the females in the business, just to be able to sort of talk quite openly, have, a real sort of inclusive conversation, and just have that warmth as well. Because not that the guys are not sort of approachable, but I think it's just nice to sort of see it from a different perspective.
No, I get it completely. How about you, Rinali? Anything you would ask for change?
So I'm being super candid here, but I feel like the United States has been slightly disconnected from the larger scheme of the processes that we have based out of the head office and the nearby locations. And what I mean by processes are fair practices for promotions, performance management, learning and development. If we could get some sort of method to the madness put there, then I feel like the teams that are really giving it their all pushing through and meeting their numbers, and not just meeting their numbers, but actually performing really well and being on the top pillar ranks, they feel motivated to do more and continue staying committed to the brand and the organization.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I picked up so much in this conversation from you both so far. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, I had one. It was just on one of the points that you made earlier, just about, I guess, your sort of your journey up to this point and how you've landed this role. It seems, really quite smooth sailing, but I guess, like most people, there must be like failures in there. Do you know what I mean? And there must have been times where it was difficult, or I guess if you had those failures, how did you sort of manage to overcome those and sort of get to where you are right now?
I mean, I think the key is to learn from failure. I think failure is the greatest teacher in life. So not to be afraid of failure. I think embrace it, because great change comes from that. So personal change, I often think about moments in the past years where, perhaps projects were run and I could have actually, done something in a different way. And how would I have done that? And if I find myself in that place again, to make sure I've learned from that, I think that's really important. I mean, also kind of drawing on the things that really made a difference. So I know I've reached out to mentors. I don't think I called them that, but people that absolutely have been, in my corner, and actually, tough love, because, I think a good mentor doesn't keep telling you, hey, you're awesome. They actually kind of, work on how you can you reach that potential, unlock that potential that they can see in you. And I think that's really important. So grab that early. I could have done that earlier in my career, I think, than I did. And maybe I was a little nervous and that was crazy. In reflection, it's daft. What's the worst going to happen again? Someone says no. Okay, so go find someone else. I think for me about the power of storytelling is really important here as well. So I learned a lot about don't just present facts, but actually give people a story to hold on to make something more understandable. If a project's gone wrong, wrap it in a story about, the things we've learned and how we would do things differently. And from this moment on, what's our commitments? So I think those would be the things I would say. There's so much, honestly, we could be here forever. My list of failures are many, but my list of learnings from those is many too.
And do you think the mentor thing, do you think that helps? Because I hadn't really had that idea. And I think when you asked that last question about what else we could do as a business, I think that could be something that's, a really great idea actually, is sort of pairing up, having mentors and just, having the chance to sort of learn from other people and take, because I'm sure the way that I do things is quite different to the way that you do things. It's different to the way that we all do different things. So it's just good to sort of share opinions and sort of have a different take on it, isn't it?
Couldn't agree with you more. The best conversations are the ones that you have, over the water cooler, a cup of coffee or whatever. Sadly, this is what we miss now in not being in the offices, right? So it's a little bit harder. It's not impossible, but it's a little bit harder right now. But I completely embrace the notion of grabbing mentors. Mentors, unlocks ideas and thinking that perhaps you didn't have. Certainly have done for me. And the greatest person I've ever worked for, the most inspiring person I've ever worked for, I thought he was the grumpiest guy on the planet. He was an American from Detroit. He turned out to be the most inspiring storyteller that I've learned so much from. And I introduced him to people that worked for me over the years because he was just incredible. But I went into that first time when I was told I was working for him, I'm like, oh my Lord, need to call Harvey Nash, need to get out of here. It was incredible. So, I think be brave with your selection of mentors. People are not what you think they are.
Yeah, no, I think, I'm definitely going to take your advice on that one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then I'll also constantly be looking for senior leaders, and I guess I won't be shy to ask for anything that I want, because the last day on the planet, I want to have no regrets.
I think that's exactly right. You want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy of, things I've done that have made a difference in somebody's life or a business's life, whatever it might be. How incredible, how well spent is your life. And the thing about mentors, just going briefly back to that, is when you think you're not ready for your next move, they're the ones that believe fully in you and open the door and throw you in before you're ready, and then tell you, prepare you, get you ready, and are really on your side. I mean, honestly, best resource you could ever draw on.
It's tough to find one though, Bev. It's really tough to find that right mentor who gets you and who wants to do something beyond their, and then push you to do something. It's tough, but yeah, we'll keep looking.
They're in all walks of life, right? I remember a client said to me, I'll come back to you, I promise, Amber. I remember a client said to me, I want you to meet my boss. And he was the CEO of a very large bank. She said, we'll meet him for breakfast. And, he's quite a difficult character, but, he wants to meet you and talk about, how you're working with our business. So I said, yeah, that'd be great. I remember he sat there with his notebook and he seemed to be staring out the window, not paying attention at all. And I was really distraught by this. I thought, oh my goodness, he doesn't like me. Well, long story short, 5 years later, I count him, one, as a friend, but secondly, as a really strong mentor, and somebody I can always draw on. Actually, that's just the way he was. He wasn't comfortable looking at people in the face. He worked as a butterfly a little bit, kind of hop an idea here, hop an idea there. And, I needed to learn about how other people work and think. So, they're not always obvious. It's not always a comfortable fit, would be my point. Sorry, Amber, you were going to say something.
No, it actually ties in quite nicely with that. I was just going to say that often the people who, it's like at school when you had teachers who were really quite tough on you, that was the lessons that you probably learned the most in. Whereas there's the ones who sort of told you what you wanted to hear, who were sort of fairly pleasant, maybe didn't just say it and were sort of quite direct with things. For me personally, I always find, tough love, it's the way you learn, isn't it? So sometimes having that environment where it's like sink or swim, as you said, sometimes when someone opens the door for you and just kind of pushes you through, you just kind of learn to survive and you do the best you can, can't you? So
right.
I really like the idea of sort of getting a mentor. It's not something I'd actually thought of before until this conversation.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear how this goes, because let's keep talking, right? I think I'd love to keep listening to you guys and tell me how I can help you. I think this is really important. I'm conscious that we've probably reached the end of our conversation. I can tell you that I've loved every second of this. I've learned so much from you both. Honestly, I'm in awe of where you've taken your careers, and I know that you have a glittering time ahead of you. I really do.
Oh, thank you so much.
So much.
Yeah, it's been so really helpful.
I'm grateful to be a part of the team that your wings are under, so it feels good. We'll all fly together. And pleasure seeing you as well, Amber.
Yes, and you. Yes, like I said, these conversations are so helpful. So I'm really grateful to kind of be involved and sort of have a chance to sort of to speak to you and learn from your experiences and your failures as well.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.